Well, I'm really, really thrilled about the opportunity to be with you today, specifically to cover this really important topic of how to empower your managers to become high performing leaders. Now, would it be a mistake to tell you that I'm a little bit nervous about today? Maybe, maybe not. And I'm nervous not because it's my first webinar, my first speaking engagement. It is not. But I'm nervous because it's a topic that I care very deeply about. In many ways, it's been my life work for the last 10, almost 15 years. And I want to do a good job for you because you've made the time and the effort to be here today. And it's people like you who make this come to life in your organizations all over the world on a daily basis. So yes, I'm nervous and I want to do a good job for you. And I know that you matter more than I do in any stretch of the imagination when it comes to your organization and helping empower your managers to be high performing leaders. So I'm going to start with a message for each one of you that showed up here or watching it on replay that I hope that you'll take to heart because I mean this. And I wrote about it in my book, Building the Best. And here's that message to the leaders who get up every morning and reject the notion of making their life all about themselves. This world needs you more than ever. I know that you've shown up here today because your world matters and you matter to your organization. And so what we're going to do as we really dig in today is we're going to look for some ideas and some strategies to help you do this more effectively and efficiently in your organization. But I know we're in a virtual setting and I know your work's not stopping and I know people need you. And I know you joined this webinar thinking maybe I'll get a couple things, but I'll keep my work going and everything else going. And I absolutely appreciate that. We've all done it before. So I thought I would start today with a little bit of a story. And that story goes like this. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had this beautiful fall evening in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was a perfect temperature to get the fire pit out. I got the golf net out. I got the kids going, trampoline, the neighbors came over. We just had this beautiful fall night. And I thought, man, what a night to really go all out. I even got the grill going. I got my favorite drink. I put some ribs on the grill, some broccoli on the grill, just a magnificent evening. But I got distracted. It was such a great evening that I got distracted and I wasn't aware of what was going on. And I woke up in the morning to an enormous hole in my deck. And the reason for that wasn't because I wasn't able to move the fire pit or not do it, but it was because I got distracted. I got distracted by this wonderful evening or these other things going on, and I lost my focus. And I've learned something really important over my last 15 years in this space. And that is, it's not often a talent problem. It's often a focus problem. You've shown up here today, or you're watching this on replay. And if you're going to lock in with me for the next 45 to 55 minutes, and be really present with me today, and you're going to try to get the most you can out of it, I just want you to tell me yes in the chat. Just tell me yes in the chat. And because of all these yeses that I'm seeing, I'm going to do my very best to give you everything that I have over the next 45 to 55 minutes to help you do this more efficiently and effectively in your organization and in your role. I am loving all these yeses. I'm even going to go a step further. I'm going to take this phone that I was being DJ with a second ago. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to settings, and I'm going to go to airplane mode just so you can see it. I'm locked in with you for the amount of time that we have. I hope you'll do the same. If at any point you find yourself veering or you find yourself moving on to something else, I want you to do your best, and I'll try to remind you to come back on the important stuff that might help you do this better in your organization. So lock in with me. It's not often a talent problem. It's often a focus problem. And if you stay with me for these next 45, you stick around to the end and you're an active participant, we've got a couple great things at the end for you. The more you participate, the better your chances of that are, one of them. So make sure you stick around to the end and be an active participant. For those of you that are not familiar with me, that is completely okay. My name is John Eads. I wrote a book called Building the Best. I'm a host of a podcast called Follow My Lead that's been downloaded over 700,000 times. We have a weekly leadership newsletter on LinkedIn that has over 225,000 subscribers. And I only share that with you, not to impress you, but to impress upon you how much I care about this topic. And when I got the opportunity to partner with PeopleBox, to take everything that we had learned from the training and development business and the assessment business and be able to bring it to an organization that has enterprise level software and cares as much as I do, I jumped at the opportunity because PeopleBox exists to help organizational leaders create engaged and high-performing teams. And we do that through performance and engagement. And everything that we do is focused on those two things, helping your managers perform better and helping improve the engagement in your organization or on your teams. Now, I mentioned a second ago, your participation is critical here. So I'm going to start today with a poll question to get everybody right out of the gate. I'm going to put this poll up on the screen. What percentage of organizations report that leadership is lacking? What percentage of organizations report that leadership is lacking? 10 more seconds. Awesome. What great participation here right out of the gate. Almost 60%. 5, 4, 3. Come on. One more vote. Here we go. All right. So fantastic participation right out of the gate here. I'm going to share these results with you. What percentage of organizations report that leadership is lacking? 28% of you said 66%. The majority said 55 or 66%. Research shows us that 77% of organizations that were surveyed report that leadership is lacking in their organization. 77%. Now, I don't know if that's the case in your organization or not, but I do know that gives us a lot of room for improvement, and it makes your job and my job even more important than we thought it was. Now, it takes me back to a story just recently. I got the opportunity to work with a really exceptional leader. And she had been working in this organization for 3 or 4 years. She had been trained. She was a high performer. She was a manager of her own team. She had made phenomenal progress in this organization. And they hired a new manager above her. They promoted someone from a different side of the organization to come to be her manager. And again, big organization, multinational, and all of a sudden, this new manager and her really had a tough time connecting. They had a tough time getting on the same page. The manager was always so busy. It was just one thing after another, and it really caused a struggle for this leader that I had the opportunity to coach and work with. And after a lot of attempts and trying all these different things, just about the time when she was most frustrated, she got a LinkedIn message. And that LinkedIn message was from a recruiter. And this recruiter said to her, "Hey, we have this great opportunity. I think you would be perfect. Would you be willing to look at it?" Now, this person was not looking. They really liked their job. They loved their team. They liked the work that they were doing, but they struggled to connect with their manager. And for that reason, she said, "Sure, I'll at least hear you out." And within 2 weeks, this particular person had taken this job in a different company and left her old organization behind. And that pay increase was for $5,000. Now, this particular leader was making six figures, and they left not for just $5,000. Yes, the $5,000 minimal pay raise was important, but it wasn't the reason why she left. She left because of her manager. And I think it gives us all this great reminder. And this great reminder is this: every organization has managers. Not every organization has leaders. Let that sink in for a second. Not every organization has managers. Every organization has managers. Not every organization has leaders. How true it is that no matter where you are in the world, no matter what kind of organization or what kind of work that your organization does, you have managers. But it doesn't mean those managers act and behave like leaders. And if this person that I was coaching had a leader that she reported to, she would still be there. And we're going to cover this later in the session today. But there was some great research done about this turnover problem. And what Google found in their research was that if an employee leaves within the first year, it costs an organization roughly $50,000 US. If those people had great managers and great leaders that they report to, and they spend a lot of one-on-one time together, those people are 3 times more likely to stay for over 2 years just by that alone. Again, it's not the only reason people leave, but it is a reason people leave if those managers don't act and behave like leaders. Now, if I were to ask everybody on this webinar right now, what does it mean to be a leader? We would have a bunch of different answers, but we would have some commonalities. So for the sake of today, I want to get on the same page about what I mean when I say a high-performing leader. If you have notes or somewhere where you're writing some notes down, I want you to write this down. A leader is someone whose actions inspire, empower, and serve in order to elevate others. Someone whose actions inspire, empower, and serve in order to elevate others. Now, these words are chosen very carefully. That word inspire, what it means is to breathe life into. It's easy for a manager to demand something. It's much harder to inspire people, to breathe life into them, to get them to do something because they want to do it, not because they're being told to do it. Inspire. The second word, and the word we're really going to focus on today, is to empower. And what empower really means is to help other people make decisions, to put the power of other people to make the decisions where the information is. A really difficult skill. And if anyone's ever reported to a micromanager, they know how painful this can be when someone is micromanaging your every move. And lastly, that word to serve, to turn that pyramid upside down. And instead of thinking your people work for you, no, you work for your people. You're at the bottom of that pyramid, not at the top. And what I've found in my 10 plus years studying and working and developing leaders is this. If you inspire, if you empower, and you serve, you'll be on your way to elevating others. And that is the key to successful leadership today. Because when you inspire and you empower and you serve and you're elevating others, the performance of that team goes up. Because this isn't only some soft kind of leadership. If I'm empowering and I'm serving them and the job's not getting done and they're not choosing to meet the standards that are set on this team, guess what? I don't serve them by keeping them around or not coaching them or not developing them. I might serve them by having them go somewhere else. Great managers act like great leaders and they get great performance. So the second poll question, if you're with me on that, just tell me yes in the chat. If you can get behind this definition of leadership, tell me yes in the chat. Unbelievable. Love it. Now, here's the question that I have for each of you today. The second poll question that we're going to go to here. See if I can get to the second poll question. The second poll question I have today is who is responsible for this kind of leadership in your organization? Who's responsible for having leaders like this in your organization? Here we go. We have the CEO, human resources, learning and development, managers, everyone. Okay, just 10 more seconds. Got to at least meet what percentage we were at last time. We will close this out. Amit says everyone in the chat. Fantastic. Okay, so what we have, let me see if I can share these results with you. Every 66% of you say everyone is responsible. And the correct answer is everyone. It's a little bit of a trick question. If those executives, the CEO doesn't believe and have this example of leadership, it's really difficult for managers and their direct reports to lead in this way, because leadership is best taught by how it's modeled. If human resources doesn't have much human in it, we're not going to get and develop and have this mindset that we're going to have this really great human organization and focus on our people. If learning and development isn't behind it, looking for programs and content to help people become the leader that they're meant to be, we're not going to get leaders like in this organization. And most importantly, if managers don't make the choice to lead and do the work to become a leader, there's nothing nobody else can do. So it's a team effort. It's everybody in this organization that's responsible for having leaders like this in your organization. Now, what I've found in my work, and I don't like to do this always, but I'm going to do it today, is that there are 5 levels of pain that employees experience from their leaders. Now, not all leadership is painful, obviously. So this is a little bit in jest. So just bear with me here. But at the end of the day, people experience some real pain and discomfort from the leaders and their organization. So as I go through these 5 levels, I want you to think about what level of pain the employees in your organization experience from the leaders that they report to or that they experience on a day in and day out basis. Okay. So what level of pain do employees, that you can think about yourself for all the employees in your organization, the first level of pain and the best level of pain that employees experience from their leaders is rather enjoyable. It's almost like if you were working out and it actually kind of feels good. You go there, it doesn't, but it feels good. You want to keep doing it. It's leaders like this. They're telling stories. They listen to their people. They're engaging. They make people feel like they belong and that they're a part of this organization. It's a rather enjoyable pain, if you will. Level one. Level two is it starts to get a little worse. This isn't bad. Like this is not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it might be, or a past leader that I've had. Leaders like this, they're authentic and they speak evenly. They about the time they speak and the time they listen, they're genuinely interested in their employees and their teammates, and they're not focused on themselves. This isn't bad, that kind of pain. The third level of pain is where it starts to get a little bit dicey. This is when it starts to get in that yellow zone. It's like, when is this going to end? Leaders in organizations like this, they're reading the bullets, they're regurgitating the spreadsheets, they're having really long meetings without a lot getting accomplished. It's kind of meetings for meeting's sake. And employees find themselves, when is this going to end? My hope is that that's not the way you're feeling right now. Level 4 is make it stop. I mean, just make this leader or the leaders stop. It's a bunch of BS. It's leaders hiding the truth, or maybe telling people what they want to hear, not authentic and being honest about the current situation. It's make it stop as soon as possible. And then level 5, what we really want to avoid is, I just can't do it anymore. I have to go somewhere else, or I'm going to completely shut off and not bring my best self to work anymore because I just can't do it anymore. A mentor of mine calls leaders that lead like this insecure narcissists. I always like that. They just refuse to listen. They talk to hear themselves talk. They're always right. And it's a real painful experience for all the employees that either report to them or ultimately have to interact with them on an everyday basis. So the last poll question of the day is this. Hopefully that wasn't, you weren't putting yourself in that, but what level of pain do employees experience from leaders in your organization? I know this is a little fun, okay? But tell me what level of pain employees experience from leaders in your organization. All right. Again, this is anonymous, so you can just let's just be honest as we can. The truth needs no crutches. This is a safe space. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right. What you'll see here is 42%. When is this going to end? 23%. This isn't bad. 19%. Rather enjoyable. Make it stop. 9 and 7. So the majority of us on this webinar think their people are thinking, when is it going to end? Now, it would be one thing for us to kind of highlight this today and say, oh, we're at level 3 of pain, and that's where we're always going to be. I don't believe that's the case. I know from my work that leadership is a journey and not a destination, which means people can grow and people can get better. So wherever you are today, I want you to reject that thinking that it's always going to be this way. It's leaders like you who show up in events like this and work tirelessly to look for small ways to improve in your organization that make the difference, that will get you from a level 4 to a level 3, or a level 3 to a level 2, or level 2 to a level 1. And hopefully the ideas that we're about to share with you will help provide some ways for you to go about doing that in your organization. How to empower your managers to be high performing leaders. Now, before we jump into these things really quickly, I want to just take a moment to say one thing. One of my mentors, Pat Lencioni, he always says to me, he says, John, people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. There could be some things that we go through that is a reminder for you. It might actually prove to you that you're doing some things extremely well in your organization. I hope that's the case. There might be some things that you think, man, maybe we could try this. Maybe we could do this. Every single one of you are going to be a little bit different. So stick with me throughout. Keep an open mind and an open heart for some new ideas or some ideas that might be a reminder to just try to level that up from level 3 to level 2 or level 4 to level 3, whatever it may be. Okay. Number 1, how to empower your managers to be high performing leaders is maybe the simplest of them all. Provide a common definition of leadership. Provide a common definition of leadership. Now, I provided a common definition for us today. Someone whose actions inspire, empower, and serve in order to elevate others. And my experience has been working with organizations of all sizes from all over the world. Very rarely is there a common definition of what it means to be a leader in their organization. They define the core values, they define the mission, they define the vision, they put it on their walls or on their website, they talk about them ongoing, but they forget that we've promoted all of these people into positions of leadership. But they haven't defined what it means to be like that in this organization, what it means to lead and not just manage. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to work with a company called 4M Building Solutions. And this organization had been around for 40 years. They had done it the same way for a long time. They'd had a lot of success. They provide world-class janitorial services for buildings all over the country, but they felt stuck. They were struggling to really get over that hump. And the leaders in the organization were kind of stalling in their growth. So I was fortunate to come in and help them. And one of the things that we did as a group is we took a look at that big definition of leadership. And we had everybody in the room write down what they thought it meant to be a leader. And what we uncovered is that everybody had a slightly different definition. So if we were going to promote someone in Montana versus Kentucky, they might have had a different perspective about what it means to be a leader. So what this organization did is they did company-wide engagement surveys. They tried to understand how their leaders were doing, and then they got that data and that information, and they provided that insight to their managers, and they gave a common definition of leadership. And here it is. 4M leaders inspire, develop, and support others selflessly and with trust. And this group went above and beyond that. They even gave definition around what it means to inspire and what it means to develop and what it means to support, what it means to be selfless as a leader and how to build trust, to put some real definition around their definition of leadership. And for the last 3 years, even through an incredibly difficult pandemic in their world, they found unique ways to grow and develop their people all over the country. They've hit an all-time record of revenue, an all-time record of number of employees. And I'm not saying this is the only reason. But results happen at the people level, and those people report to managers. Just keep in mind, leaders are responsible for the people. Those people are responsible for the results. They're developing leaders, and then those leaders are developing people. And I love this example. And it reminds us of a very important lesson. And I hope you'll write this down. I'll go full screen on this. No matter where, it's never too late to define something meaningful because the future hasn't happened. It's never too late. 40 years into building this organization and running in a certain way, and their CEO and their management team and their HR leaders and their learning and development team knew it wasn't too late to define what it means to be a leader there. Because they knew the future had not yet happened. They were going to hire a lot of people. They were going to acquire companies. The future of developing people and leaders in that organization wasn't over, even though the past was littered with examples of leadership. Wherever your organization is, it's never too late to define something meaningful because the future hasn't yet happened. The first lesson that I want you to take away from is there a common definition of leadership? If I asked managers in your organization that are remote or hybrid, or if you're back in the office, what does it mean to be a leader here at your organization? What would they say? If the answer isn't what you like, maybe there's a little work to do. Now, if you say, John, I'm not the CEO, I couldn't make this happen in my organization, that's fine. Can you start small? Can you define what it means to be a leader for you or for your team? If you promote someone on your team to be a manager, can you provide them a definition of leadership that you expect? Start small. Big results start small. Okay, so even if you're not the CEO, how small can you start to define what it means to be a leader in your organization? Okay, if you're still with me, tell me yes in the chat. If you're finding yourself zoning out, just come back with me. This is where we really get rocking and rolling. Okay, fantastic. Number two, we're going to define the definition of leadership, and then number two, we're going to supply the mirror for self-awareness. We're going to supply the mirror for self-awareness. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. There's a common practice for officers in the Marines, and it's what's called an Iron Council. And what this is it's basically a group of 6 people that are around an officer, either direct reports or peers or their boss, and they meet a few times a year in a group setting or through COVID, maybe virtually, and they provide feedback about that leader's performance and how they've been leading. And it's not meant to air petty grievances or to beat some officer up. No, it's meant to help them improve. It's not meant to be a judgment tool. It's meant to be a development tool. And it works flawlessly because multiple times a year, these men and women get the opportunity to get the mirror put in front of their face. Here's how I'm doing, not how I think I'm doing, but here's how I'm actually doing. This is what the people that are experiencing my leadership say. It's a humbling moment for many of them. Sometimes it's a confirmation of what they think. Either way, it teaches us a very important lesson. Again, if you're writing down some notes, I want you to write this one down. You can't change what you don't know. You can't change what you don't know. I don't know how many of you, however you're giving that mirror to your managers today. Again, I'm going to share some ideas for how we help organizations do this at PeopleBox today, but it's hard. What we typically have done in the leadership development space is to provide 360s, and once a year or once every 5 years, each manager or leader gets a 360 about how they're currently leading, about their skills and feedback. And I love that. I don't want to knock that. I still do that to this day. It's a great way. At PeopleBox, we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually giving leaders and managers awareness over time. So every time a significant survey goes out, whether it be quarterly or biannually or monthly, we're actually giving each manager a view of how they're doing over time and how their team feels they're doing. So instead of just hoping that we're getting better or hoping that this is the case, instead, we give them a mirror of how they're doing. We put that mirror in front of their face about what you can do. Awareness over time. If you don't have PeopleBox or you don't have a tool like it, what I want you to think about is how can you help provide your managers a mirror for how they're doing? Anonymous surveys, anything you can do to help provide that mirror, because most managers think they're leading a little better than they actually are. Okay. Number two, it's supply the mirror to your managers. Okay. Number three, give them the digital tools to lead. Give them the digital tools to lead. Now, I love this story because I got the opportunity to work with a fairly new manager. They were moved into a brand new leadership position. And this CEO said, John, this is their first opportunity to lead. I think we really need to provide them some one-on-one help and support. And so I was so excited about the opportunity to help this new leader. And this new leader, every time we would have a coaching conversation, where we would go through what she was doing with her team, she would always say to me one word. She would say, oh, I'm going to do that tomorrow. She would say, John, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And it was seeming like every single time we talked, it was always tomorrow, or it was always, it's tomorrow, or I don't have the tools to do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't have the tools to do that. And so I provided this kind of feedback to her leader about the tools that she said she did or didn't have. And it was making her job really hard to do. And so what this executive team did is they invested in some tools for their managers to have and to lead. And in those conversations that we had in the future, something really funny happened. The excuses started to vanish. And it taught me a really important lesson. And the lesson is this: the sooner you have the tools, the slower the excuses become. The sooner you have the tools, the slower the excuses become. Now, without the tools, I'm not in the excuses business, okay? Leaders find a way. Great high performers find a way regardless of the tools that they have. But something funny happens when you give your leaders the tools to successfully lead in a remote or hybrid work environment, that they run out of excuses. And the cream kind of rises to the top. You see who's doing it and who's not. It's almost like a CRM system if you're a sales leader. It's one thing for those salespeople to make an excuse when something doesn't happen. It's another thing to just go look in that Salesforce.com or in that HubSpot and say, actually, this just hasn't been done yet. Giving your managers the tools to lead in this digital environment is a secret to creating high-performing leaders. Now, every organization and every partner that you might have might do this in a different way. Again, this is just an idea for some of the ways that we do this through one-on-ones and providing tools for managers to have really great one-on-ones. I mentioned to you earlier that research about from Google, and I'm just going to reiterate it just for a second. The average employee costs an organization $50,000 if they turn over within a year. And the likelihood that someone stays 3 years increases by 3 times just by managers having one-on-ones with their team members. Let me say that one more time. People stay 3 times longer just if they have one-on-ones with their manager. And if they ask these 2 questions, if you're taking notes, whether digital tool, PeopleBox is the best in class for this. But if managers simply ask these 2 questions, what are your current pain points and how can I support you in those one-on-ones? They're dramatically more effective. Sometimes we make it more complicated than we need to be. But if you can give people digital tools to have better one-on-ones and have better interactions with their team members, you'll see the excuses will go away and you'll get a visibility into how the quality and the efficiency of those one-on-ones. And instead of waiting for those performance reviews at the end, you'll have an ongoing drip of how people are doing on an ongoing basis based on the quality and the quantity of those one-on-ones. Okay, number 4, make the annoying tasks better. Make the annoying tasks better. We're all in a place where if we've managed a team or we're responsible for managers managing a team, we know these tasks get a little bit tricky. They get a little annoying when you're a manager. They're critical to be done, but they're a little bit annoying. And there was a great research done by a group at Harvard. And what they found is that knowledge workers spend 41% of their time on manual tasks. Let me say that one more time. 41% of their time on manual tasks. And what they found, the secret to being more productive and to doing more work that matters was simply by eliminating or delegating unimportant tasks. Now, for managers, so much of their job a part of their job is doing these manual tasks. A good example of this would be a performance review. Performance reviews are critical. They're critical for raises and promotions and tracking how employees are doing. And they're a critical thing that managers have to do. But everything that goes into that performance review itself is often very painful. Getting the data, writing it down, having a file, sending the PDF, creating a Word document. I mean, now imagine if you have 15 team members. Our research has found that managers spend as much as 2 to 3 weeks preparing for performance reviews. Now, if you have a biannual review, that means managers are spending as much as a month or 6 weeks getting ready for the performance review. Do you think they like that? I can almost assure you they do not. So, it's just a great lesson for us all to remember, no matter our current role or not. When you automate managerial tasks, it frees up time to lead. When you automate managerial tasks, it frees up time to lead. What can you do to automate managerial tasks to free up time for your leaders to lead? I spoke about this in a video recently. Managerial tasks, many of them can be automated. The leadership can't be automated. So what can you do to automate some of those managerial tasks that are essential, but are heavily time consuming for your managers? I mentioned performance reviews. One of the things that we've really seen in our work is that one of the real hindrances for managers is these performance reviews. So if your organization is using Slack, Why not do those performance reviews right where they're communicating every single day? I mean, right inside Slack, can you do that performance review? Can all of that work be done? And instead, what the leader prepares for is that conversation for the performance review, not everything that goes before it. Do it right where they're communicating to where they are today. Again, this doesn't have to be with PeopleBox. It could be with anything. Your job is to look for opportunities to automate the managerial tasks. Survey your managers. Find out what they want automated. Okay, the last thing we're going to have today before we wrap up here is number 5, and that is clarify company goals with team goals. Clarify company goals with team goals. I got the opportunity to spend some time with a great nonprofit, fantastic organization, wonderful, wonderful leadership as an example to the organization. But the CEO at the time was really struggling to get all of the divisions within the company and the board aligned to achieving the same kinds of things. And when we got a chance to speak with her team members, what we found is that they suffered from one thing. They didn't know how their achievement was impacting the company goals. They were kind of running a rat race without knowing how all the work that they were doing on an everyday basis, that their teams were doing, were feeding up to a larger company goal. And it taught me a really important lesson for managers. If you're really trying to help managers perform better and act like leaders, creating clarity about how team goals contribute to organizational goals is a gift. So few organizations do this well. They just hope, as my mentor says, hope is not a strategy. They just hope managers set really good goals, and they hope that they impact the right metrics that the executive team or that the board or whatever is measuring. Maybe they send out something about a goal at the beginning of the year, and that's kind of where it ends. And they just hope that managers set clear goals. If you want to empower your managers to be high-performing leaders, one of the most important things that you can do is to create clarity about how their team goals impact the company goals. Because when we achieve things, we find more meaning in our work. We've seen this done beautifully in PeopleBox by so many companies that what they're doing is they're providing a tree of goals and OKRs to say, here's our company goal for this quarter, and here's how this department or this manager, how it's going to impact the achievement of those goals over time. And we're going to track and measure against these on an ongoing basis. Again, this doesn't have to be PeopleBox, but if you're trying to empower your managers to become high-performing leaders, we've got to give them something to achieve. And we've got to create clarity around why their work matters and what it impacts when they're successful. OKRs, have some tools. If it's, I know so many people are using spreadsheets or, Google Drive. Find some way to create one place where you can see the company goals and how team goals impact it. If you can't get that far, just do it for your team. Set a goal for this quarter or for next year and do some branch logic. Set some clear OKRs, objectives and key results to get there. You'll be amazed. Research shows that 41% of goals are achieved simply by writing them down. Try to provide your place of people to track and measure their goals. Okay, here's a recap for everybody and for being here so attentively. I'm watching the chat here. Here it is. If you're going to empower your managers to be high-performing leaders, number 1, provide a common definition of leadership. 2, supply the mirror for self-awareness. 3, give them the digital tools to lead. Four, make the annoying tasks better of being a manager. And five, clarify company goals with team goals. I don't know which one you can implement in the shortest amount of time or that would make the most impact in your organization. But I would hope that you could try to identify just one. You're probably not going to get all five immediately. What's one that you could implement in the short term that would help your managers be higher performing leaders? That's the challenge to each of us today. Now, because you stayed on so long, and I told you those that engaged the most and participated the most, we were going to have an awesome giveaway. So what we're going to do here is my team has been watching the chat. We've been knowing this. We're going to announce a Building the Best winner over email for those that attended and participated the best. So keep your eye out for an email. If you participated, we will be selecting a winner of Building the Best, and we will get that out in the mail to you. And maybe most of all, we have this incredible Halloween offer. For the first time, you actually can try PeopleBox at absolutely no cost at all for 2 weeks for free to see if it's the right fit. You can mess around with it, play with it, however you want to give PeopleBox a shot, a genuine shot. And then if you sign up before the end of that trial, you're actually going to get 2 months free when you get the all-in-one package for $10 a month. Again, I know everybody might be using different tools, and that's great. If you don't have any of these tools that we talked about today, you can actually try this for free today. Give it an honest shot, and our team will be there to help you, to support you, to see if it's a great fit in your organization, all the way from OKRs to engagement to one-on-ones. This is the best way I know how. Why I got involved in this was to help leaders like you create high-performing leaders. And I think PeopleBox is an excellent way to do that. There's a chat in the organization, there's a link in the chat. You'll get it over email. Thank you so much for being here. I'll take a moment here. We have 5 minutes. If you need to leave, great. If there are questions, you can use the chat, and we will cover any Q&A about things that you saw today that you're curious about. You are more than welcome, Alexander. Alina, you're welcome. Alina, you're welcome. Brian, you are more than welcome. Thanks for being here. Keith, you're welcome. Thank you for that feedback. Boris, you're welcome. Laura, yes, we do. You can reach out that way as well. Ashley, Michelle, very kind words. Excellent. Any questions, you can use the chat and we will cover them. We even can take you off of mute if there are any questions that you have. Thank you, Michelle. Jarvin, very kind words. I appreciate that. Does this program work in the UK? Absolutely. Crystal, you're welcome. Amit, you are welcome. Yes, works all over the world. We have team members in India, in Africa, in the US. We have team members everywhere to help you implement PeopleBox in your organization. You are welcome. Okay. Can I paste my LinkedIn profile in the chat? I can. You can just search John Eads. I'll put it in the chat. You can search John Eads on LinkedIn. Awesome. Keith, thanks for being here. Remember, you're the difference. You're the difference. All right. I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you so much for making the time, and continue to lead your best.